Welcome to the Caitlyn Clark March Madness episode, part 2 of the Minding the Gap podcast. I'm Paul Bakke with Dr. David Barnhart, and we're licensed counselors with Behavioral Sciences of Alabama. Last night, Iowa was able to survive and advanced against a very gritty West Virginia basketball team, and that allowed them to move on to the Sweet 16. That was an intense game, Dr. Barnhart, and I'm still recovering. How about you?
I feel like I didn't sleep well last night, and I actually did, but yeah, I was worn out when I went to bed.
I was having basketball dreams, and I think I accidentally knocked my wife in the eye in the middle of the night.
Okay. That was a rough
But anyway,
game.
it was very intense.
Yeah, I was watching the coach for the West Virginia team, and he kept doing this, and I knew what he was saying. He was saying, keep it tight, keep
it together. When things get tough, keep it together. Focus on yourselves. He did a great job, and they really had a great game plan to really kind of suffocate and not allow the Iowa players any room to operate.
Yes.
And they almost pulled it off.
They did. It was scary if you're rooting for.
It was scary.
And
isn't it amazing how intense the feeling can be just watching a sporting event where you don't even know any of the players.
Exactly.
You don't know any of them. Anyway, well, I've got
imagination is all it takes.
That's right. You just got to get invested. So I've got my Caitlyn Clark.
Excellent.
Ready to go. I got my from the logo.
Very good.
Water bottle ready. I got my basketball and I got my Iowa Hawkeye shirt. I'm ready to talk about a little bit more about it at Caitlyn Clark.
Mm-hmm.
We decided to do these Caitlyn Clark episodes is because her story and her impact as a national phenomenon is so compelling and impressive. And there are many things related to mental health that we can learn from her.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. It's a fun way for us to talk about mental health issues. And the cherry on top is that it's really exciting to watch her play basketball.
Fun, very fun. 34 points.
34 points in kind of a tough game. You wouldn't think.
Gosh.
You know, sometimes she just has those games where you think, oh, she didn't really dominate. She didn't really score that much, but she scored 34 points.
34 points. Yeah.
Nearly another double-double, almost 10 assists. She even broke another record last night, the single season scoring record last night. So,
yeah.
So today we're going to talk about what Caitlyn Clark can teach us about intensity and emotional regulation. Last time we talked about the brain as a prediction machine that uses sensory information to make predictions and then adjustments to errors. But the process often starts with what we value as important. For Caitlyn, she obviously values excellence in her basketball performance, calling herself a perfectionist. She has predetermined goals for herself and for her team to play well and to win. So what happens when she doesn't perform to her expectations? You can see frustration in her expressions and her body language. She even bounced the ball off of her head when she was frustrated with herself in one of the games this weekend. We can all relate to this because we have expectations and goals based on our values. And the more important they are, the more intensely we want desired outcomes. Performance success, academic, work or sports, relationship success. We want to be valued by others, to be listened to be understood, to be respected, to be supported. As parents, we have expectations that our kids behave themselves. We want them to achieve. We want them to be responsible. We want them to have success in their sporting events. Dr. Barnhart, do you think this is why many parents behave badly at their kids' sporting events or dance competitions?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So they have this high goal. They want to see their child perform. And they're not really practiced. Nobody teaches us how to parent well. And what a difference rewarding the positive opposite of what you're seeing when you see the behaviors you don't want.
That's right.
How powerful that is.
It's powerful. I mean, and the closer we are to a situation, the more we want something, the more intense we become, the more emotional we get, the more upsetting it is when things don't work out like we don't want them to happen. And because expectations are part of the predictive process and they haven't happened yet, there's often a fear or a feeling of anxiety that the good thing we want to happen won't happen.
Mhm.
This only elevates the intensity of what's already intense. When those expectations are not met, it doesn't feel good. It's very easy and natural to react to that emotional intensity in ways that don't really help, sometimes hurt relationships and lead to the opposite outcomes that we want. And that's what you were talking about a minute ago. We don't typically practice responding to bad things. We naturally just respond to being angry and, yelling at someone or getting frustrated in some kind of way that's not helpful.
You could really see that evidence of that in sports, the difference between the way some people respond and the way others respond.
Absolutely. You can tell sometimes when somebody's got, they say they got in her head or they got in his head and they're out of their game because the emotional intensity and the reaction is throwing them off.
Mhm.
The last time we talked about how Caitlyn Clark adjusts to mistakes during the game, doesn't really let mistakes deter her from corrections. We talked about that, but she is extremely intense and she does have big reactions. She's been known to do this towards the referees when they make a call she doesn't like.
Yeah. I read her lips one time last night. It was not a good word.
Yeah, right. Sometimes she's not very nice to the opposition, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes she bounces balls off of her head in frustration.
Mhm.
But she's really kind of learned how to, whatever her frustration is, it doesn't go into her performance.
Mhm.
She's learned because she's kind of stone cold in her confidence and
Oh yeah.
her extreme ability. She's confident and she's going to focus that energy back onto the correction.
So there was about a 30 seconds left, I think, in the third quarter. And she got the ball and she was headed down and she could have gone in, but she dribbled back out to get the team down to make sure they got the last shot.
Right.
So that was emotional regulation.
Emotional regulation. She's not going to take the moment and do something that she's not thought out and that doesn't make sense for the team.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things, okay, so this year I've been reading a lot about her because it's just been interesting. She's just an interesting person and fun to watch. And there was an article on the ESPN website that really gets inside her story. It's by Wright Thompson. So if anybody's interested out there, check that out. And today I want to talk about her development with emotional regulation. The article points out that when she was in high school and early college, the players just weren't used to the speed of her processing and her ability to pass, and even her desire to win. They just couldn't keep up with her intensity and her ability. And so they often weren't ready for passes or didn't go where she expected them to go. And she really struggled trusting her teammates. Sometimes she wouldn't pass to an open player because they didn't catch the ball before, or she would get really frustrated with players because they weren't doing what she expected them to do. So the coaches going back through high school, when they had to teach her that, look, not all these girls care as much as you do about this, and then in college, they were able to show her video of her responses to her teammates during practice. And she was able to learn the impact that she was having on her teammates. Mm-hmm. And she got some simple and really great advice from her coaches. One of the things was she'd get frustrated and she'd turn around and just kind of run through the tunnel and walk away. And that was a better response than to, be demonstrative and get really angry with her teammate. She smiled more on purpose. And who would have thought this? She praised her teammates.
Oh my.
Parents out there, when you praise your children it has a big impact
It does.
on them. It's so much better
Yeah.
than when you're criticizing and getting upset. So, so she was able to kind of see that the impact that her teammates were like, oh, I got a compliment from Caitlyn Clark. You know, they felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's great leaders learn how to do that. And you can see how she's been able to use her own emotional regulation as a great leader. She's able to use it for her own stuff. Like she doesn't get mad at herself long enough for it to impact the next play.
Yeah.
But expectations of her teammates was different.
Mm-hmm.
So winning in excellence, it's fun to watch.
It is.
But what I think is just as much fun to watch with this year's Iowa team is how committed they are to each other and how they use that intensity to be all in together. And the catalyst of that unity and gratitude and joy has been the work that Caitlyn Clark has done with her own emotional regulation. So for the listeners, I want to encourage you to think about what's important to you and expectations you have when it comes to things like achievement, parenting, relationships, and how you can use emotional regulation to help you achieve outcomes, just like Caitlyn Clark has taught us through her example.
Excellent. Great advice. Great model. And a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So enjoy the rest of the tournament. Let me see if I can do my Caitlyn Clark.
Oh, hey, that's not too bad. Now, I saw her hold that up about, I don't know, it looked like
I
10,
know she can do it a long
15 seconds.
time. It must be the basketball's fault.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now that looks pretty good. There you go. Oh, you and
All right, everybody, have a great day, and go Hawkeyes.
Yes, absolutely.